The Pharaoh Kitty. Chapter 1. The Dream Beneath the Pyramids. The sun rose over the golden sands of Egypt, painting the horizon in shades of amber and rose. The mighty pyramids stood in the distance, ancient, wise, and silent. Beneath their shadow, in a narrow alleyway filled with the scent of bread and spice, a small grey tabby kitten blinked her bright green eyes open. Her name was Neferti, though no one had ever called her that yet. To most people, she was just another stray. Neferti stretched her tiny paws, her fur glinting silver in the morning light. She trotted to her favorite perch, a half-broken clay pot, where she could see the very tip of the Great Pyramid shimmering in the sun. Every morning, she watched it with wonder, imagining herself at the top, sitting proud and tall, a crown of gold resting between her ears. "I'll be the greatest Pharaoh Kitty one day," she whispered to herself. Just like Bastet, the goddess of cats. But dreams alone couldn't fill an empty belly. So Neferti got to work. She darted between market stalls, her keen eyes searching for scurrying mice. The bakers laughed when they saw her sprint and pounce, her little tail flicking with pride each time she caught one. "Ah, little hunter," one of them chuckled, tossing her a crumb of warm bread. "Maybe you are a queen in disguise." Neferti purred, accepting the compliment with grace. She made it her mission not just to survive, but to shine. Every day, she caught mice to help the shopkeepers. She greeted travelers with soft meows and bright eyes. The tourists adored her, snapping pictures, calling her the Royal Kitty. Each evening, as the desert cooled and the stars unveiled themselves, Neferti would climb onto the old wall by the river. The pyramids glowed beneath the moon, ancient and mysterious. She would stare at them and whisper to the stars, "Someday, I'll walk those sands as Pharaoh Neferti, the kitty queen of all Egypt." The other street cats teased her sometimes. "Pharaoh? You can barely catch your tail," they'd snicker. But Neferti only smiled, her eyes filled with determination. She didn't care how small she was or where she came from. She believed that with enough heart and effort, even a dusty alley cat could earn a place among legends. And so, night after night, she dreamed, her paws tucked beneath her chin, her heart full of ambition. The pyramids watched over her, silent witnesses to a destiny yet to unfold. Chapter 2. The Diligent Queen of the Streets. The seasons turned, and the once tiny grey tabby grew into a sleek and graceful cat. Neferti's fur shimmered silver under the desert sun, her green eyes sharp with focus and pride. She was no longer the clumsy kitten chasing shadows, she was a skilled hunter, a guardian of her street. Every morning, she rose before the market opened. The soft hum of dawn rolled through the air as she began her patrol. The merchants had long since come to rely on her. Neferti chased away rats that scurried too close to their grain sacks, caught mice before they nibbled at the bread stalls, and even kept the alleys clean of scraps that might draw snakes. "She's our pharaoh already," one shopkeeper would joke as he swept his doorstep. "Keeping the streets safer than any guard." Neferti took great pride in her work. She never asked for payment, though she was rarely without a meal. The people adored her. Children offered her bits of fish, the old women left bowls of milk by the steps, even the stray dogs in the neighborhood learned to respect her, bowing their heads when she passed. At midday, she often rested beneath the shade of a fig tree. From there, she could see the pyramids standing tall beyond the city edge. Their ancient stones gleamed like gold in the heat. She would stare at them, her tail curling around her paws, her heart full of fire. One day, she told herself, "I'll climb to the top. I'll see the world from there, not as a stray, but as Pharaoh Neferti, the queen who earned her crown." The other cats sometimes laughed when they heard her speak that way. "Still dreaming of being a pharaoh," sneered one lazy tomcat, sprawled in the sun. "Yes," Neferti replied calmly, "because dreams only stay dreams if you stop chasing them." Then she trotted off, graceful and sure. Her belief never wavered. Each day was hard, some hotter than others, some with too little food or too many rivals, but Neferti never lost her kindness. She shared her food when she could. She guided younger kittens away from danger. And she never once hissed at a human, even when they stepped too close or startled her. The people began calling her Neferti the Noble. They painted her likeness on the walls near the market, just small chalk drawings, but they made her proud. At night, when the city quieted and the stars shimmered like diamonds, Neferti would climb onto her favorite wall. The pyramids glowed in the distance, silver under the moonlight. She'd gaze at them in silence, her whiskers twitching in thought. She wasn't there yet, but she was closer. For Neferti had learned something powerful. Greatness wasn't a crown or a title. It was persistence. It was heart. And while others only dreamed, she was living her dream, one good deed, one caught mouse, one kind act at a time. Chapter 3: The Pharaoh's Heart. The morning sun shimmered on the cobblestone streets as merchants called out their prices and the air filled with the scent of spice and bread. Neferti, as always, made her rounds, tail high, ears perked, watching over her little kingdom. But that day was different. From down the street came the thunder of hooves, loud, panicked, fast. A carriage rounded the corner too sharply. The horse neighed wildly, eyes wide with fear. People shouted, scattering out of the way. Neferti froze for only a heartbeat before the carriage hit a loose stone and crashed, tipping on its side with a terrible splintering sound. The horse tore free and galloped away into the chaos. When the dust settled, Neferti crept forward, her heart racing. A man lay beside the broken carriage, his clothes torn, his arm bleeding, and his face pale from shock. The crowd gathered but no one dared get too close. The little gray cat stepped forward. She sniffed the man's hand gently, then meowed, a soft, comforting sound. Slowly, she began to tug at his sleeve, pouring toward the shade of her alley. The man groaned but followed her eyes. With great effort, he crawled after her. Step by step, she led him to her home, a quiet corner behind a bakery, where she kept her little nest of cloth scraps and a half-broken jar of water. For days, she stayed by his side. Neferti hunted for bits of fish from the market and shared what she caught. She even stole a bit of bread one night, dragging it piece by piece back to him. She'd nudge his hand, meow softly until he ate. When he winced in pain, she curled against his chest and purred, her warmth steady and calming. The man began to smile again. "You're a brave one, little queen," he whispered weakly one night. "Perhaps Bastet herself sent you." Day after day, his strength returned. He washed his wounds in the river, leaned on the wall to practice walking, and shared what coins he had to buy food for both of them. Neferti stayed by him always, his guardian, his nurse, his companion. Then one golden evening, when the desert breeze was soft and the sky turned the color of honey, the man knelt beside her. He scratched gently behind her ear and said, "You've saved my life, Pharaoh Kitty. I will never forget you." He stood, looked toward the horizon where the pyramids glowed in the sunset, and smiled. "May you rule this street as kindly as you've ruled my heart." And with that, he walked away, his steps slow but strong, disappearing into the glow of the setting sun. Neferti watched him until he was only a silhouette against the sky. Her heart swelled with pride, not the kind that comes from gold or power, but from love. She had helped someone in need. She had made a difference. That night, she climbed to her favorite wall and gazed at the pyramids once more. The wind whispered softly through the palms, and for the first time, she didn't dream of wearing a crown. She simply smiled and said, "I am Pharaoh enough for me." And the stars above Egypt twinkled in quiet agreement. Final chapter, the Pharaoh Kitty of Egypt. The dawn came softly, painting the sky with ribbons of gold and rose. The streets of Cairo were quiet, the merchants still slept, and the air was cool and calm. On her old stone wall sat Neferti, the silver tabby who had once been a tiny stray. She licked her paws in the glow of the sunrise, watching as the light spilled over the pyramids in the distance. Her fur glimmered like molten silver in the dawn. She was alone, but peaceful. Life had been kind. She had her home, her people, her purpose. She had helped others and earned their love. She was content. Then, faint at first, came the sound of hooves on stone. Slow, steady, regal. Neferti's ears perked. From around the corner came a golden carriage, shining as if the sun itself pulled it. The driver leapt down, cloaked in fine Egyptian silk. His face was familiar, the same man she had saved so long ago. But now, he was dressed in royal splendor, gold armbands gleaming, a sash embroidered with the Eye of Ra. He smiled when he saw her. "My little Pharaoh Kitty," he said softly. "Do you remember me?" Neferti meowed, leaping down and rubbing against his leg. Her heart thumped with recognition and joy. The man knelt, scooping her into his arms as the warm wind rippled through his robes. "I promised I would never forget you," he whispered. "And I meant it. You are no ordinary cat, you are Egypt's heart." He carried her in the carriage across the golden sands. The pyramids loomed larger and larger until they stood beneath their towering majesty. The air shimmered with sunlight, and even the desert seemed to bow in silence. At the foot of the Great Pyramid, the man set Neferti down and clapped his hands. Attendants stepped forward carrying silken cloths, golden ornaments, and a tiny jeweled collar glowing with blue lapis. They draped her in fine linen, fastened the collar around her neck, and placed upon her head a delicate crown shaped like a lotus flower, fit for a queen. The man raised his staff toward the sky. "From this day forward," he declared, his voice echoing across the dunes, "let it be known, this is Pharaoh Neferti, the true ruler of kindness, guardian of the people, and queen of cats." The wind carried his words toward the horizon. The crowd that had gathered bowed their heads, whispering in awe. Neferti stepped forward, her golden ornaments glinting in the sunlight. She climbed the ancient stones, one step, then another, until she reached the very top of the Great Pyramid. There she stood, tall and proud, the desert stretching endlessly before her. The city below shimmered like a jewel. This was the land she had lived in, hunted in, cared for, and loved. And now, she ruled it, not with claws, but with heart. The wind brushed through her fur, carrying her quiet purr across the sands as she gazed at her home. She had earned this moment, every grain of it, with courage, kindness, and faith. As the sun rose high over Egypt, the light caught her crown and made it blaze like fire. To every cat and every person below, she was no longer just Neferti the stray. She was Pharaoh Neferti, the top Pharaoh Kitty of Egypt. And she purred softly to herself. I did it. I truly did it. From that day forward, travelers swore that at sunrise, if you looked closely at the top of the Great Pyramid, you could see a silver cat sitting proudly in the light, watching over Egypt forever. The end.